But let's get into the game right now as we have Antigua Shipyard, our final game of this series. It is MaNa against Axslav. In the bottom left-hand corner, as the blue Protoss, we have MauCC MaNa.
MaNa. And in the top right, we have Axslav from Team Infinity 7. He currently is at MOG being an analyst, but he actually managed to fit in this series, so we really appreciate the scheduling, and that's why we're about the players' convenience, and we want to be able to do it. But in the end, guys, these are replays that we're watching out of because Axslav couldn't make the match live, otherwise he'd be canceling his other obligations.
Well, it's nice that the NASL is so flexible with that. Of course,
no bias, man.
No bias. No, we've been a lot more flexible with scheduling. That's just how it's been. Which actually brings me to an update. It looks like the Strelok versus Vibe game is actually going to be played right now since Strelok is in Europe. It's quite late for him right now.
It's quite late, so they're playing it right now and trying to get the replays to you. So it was intended to be live tonight, but we'll see how the series actually plays out. It will be shown later tonight.
But back to this game, let's first talk about what I was saying before. Why don't you take it away, Frodan? Why is it so easy, or I shouldn't say so easy, but a lot easier than other maps to macro on this map than other maps?
Well, in general, the rush distance is pretty large. It's diagonal to diagonal. And as long as you know you're not being cannon rushed, we were talking earlier how Antigua Shipyard is one of those maps you can cannon rush based off the location of the low ground to the geyser, and it's definitely quite annoying. But you have a lot of flexibility to defend also because you see how there's such a high ground advantage from the main to the bottom of the natural. There's just a lot of room you can kind of poke away, and so defending is very easy. And as a result, a lot of one-base aggression sometimes doesn't work on Antigua compared to the way it would work on another map like Tal'Darim and Belshir Beach. And so sometimes we see players like Grubby go for like a 1-gate expand sometimes and fake some 4-gate aggression. You've seen other players try to go for a little bit more defensive opening, get up 3 gates and go for stalkers and to expand after that. But the idea is it is an easier map to expand on.
Yeah, I mean, sentries, let's just say, sentries are much stronger on this map than other maps.
Yes.
You know, walling off this ramp, obviously, this is pretty standard, but the natural, you technically only need 1 sentry force field to actually wall that off. Sounds weird, right, Frodan? Sounds weird.
Sounds weird.
Ask me why it's so weird.
Why are you so weird, Andre?
I don't know. I don't know. It's just a very interesting Asian family that I grew up in.
What's so weird? What's so weird? All right, man. I'm not Dr. Phil.
Why is it
I can't counsel you through your family issues. We'll talk about this later.
Why is it only 1 force field? Well, when you see 1 force field, would you ever think, hey, let me go up that ramp that has 1 force field already planted on there?
Right. So it funnels you into a choke, and you get psyched out because you think, man, he's got a 2nd force field planned out as well.
Exactly.
That's so smart.
So it's really easy to actually just say, get out of my base. Don't approach it until you have something like Colossus or Archons. That's a little bit later in the game. Now, we have still seen 1 base all-ins. I don't want to say that we're not going to be seeing that at all.
Right.
It's definitely a possibility. But this is a map, if any map, that we might see just macro play. Oh, please let it be so, Frodan. Please let it be so.
Well, MaNa eventually had 3 gates, and now he's adding a 4th gate, while we do see Axslav getting out his sentry. Now, he does have 2 stalkers and 1 zealot, which is an advantage compared to MaNa's, and MaNa actually sent 2 probes here trying to be sneaky peeky as he is placing a pylon straight in the vision of Axslav, but will Axslav let it go up? That's the question.
Well, here's the thing. Axslav does have the advantage, but he's so scared of the warpin doing a lot of damage here, and his stalker's getting caught off guard. He had the 1 zealot advantage. He was able to pick off that zealot, but look at that, the cancel, and oh my god, there's a pylon inside. I'm sorry, not a pylon.
So there's a probe inside of the base of MaNa. And MaNa hasn't scouted because he's too busy microwing back outside the natural of Axslav. And that's a very clever move. Axslav, if that's not scouted, could just do critical damage if MaNa's not paying attention.
Yes, it could. But I think... Oh my god, does MaNa not know about this?
No, he doesn't. This is why, man. This is why you got to clean your room.
We might have a very early game, 3rd game here.
Oh, no, MaNa sees it. He's too good for that. I mean, look at that. He's just being really comprehensive and cautious. Now, Axslav, he tries to go in, but a good blockage. Those stalkers, they were like the mean bouncers I met the other week, man. Just like everywhere I went, you try to walk one direction, you change direction, and they like stick out their chest, And of course, their chest is like the size of three times the size of your head. So everywhere you just turn your head, you bump into them. That's what the Stalkers were. They're bullying. Stalkers are big bullies, if you think about it. They're also like 12 feet tall, so that would probably explain why they're so intimidating.
I used to be bouncer.
If I open a nightclub, I'd definitely get a Stalker to be my bouncer, man.
Would you get me to be your bouncer?
Because then if you try to dash around the Stalker, you just blink backwards, man, and just stand in front of the door. It'd be so sick.
Okay.
It's crazy, man.
I almost walked into something.
I know.
But I'm gonna get away from that.
I was just avoiding.
It's like,
matter for you. Axslav is expanding though right now. And
yeah,
so
both these
MaNa.
players are expanding.
Yeah, they're expanding.
They're actually doing pretty identical builds. You can see 3 gates for Axslav. That's the one difference.
He's got 5 sentries. That's overdoing it, I think.
Yes.
4 is a good number, I think.
Well, here's the thing. That's the beauty of defensive 4 gate, which is what MaNa did, or a fake 4 gate. It does force your opponent, if they are going for some sort of tech build, to make a lot more sentries than they want to. Unfortunately for MaNa, he thought there was a reverse 4 gate coming, or there very well could have been, so he made a lot more sentries than he should have, I felt like. 4 sentries is a little excessive at this point in time. I guess if he wants to defend his ramp on the bottom, then yes, it's fine, but still, it is a little excessive. And, ooh, nice!
Very, very bad situation for Axslav, as he has 3 Stalkers trapped by 2 well-placed force fields. And all of a sudden, you see in a supply advantage, it was about to tilt back in favor of MaNa, but Axslav, for getting a little bit earlier units and a little bit earlier gateways, doesn't actually have that advantage anymore.
Now here's something interesting. Axslav is taking the 3rd and 4th gas right away. Now, what do you need the 3rd and 4th gas for? That's the big question. Normally it's something like tech, of course Colossus, which are inbound. You can see the robotics bay is being made right now. MaNa has only gone for a 3rd gas. Really interesting. So he's focusing more on getting minerals, obviously. A lot more probes are being allocated towards these minerals than to gas. So he could be looking to do some sort of timing with this, potentially. I'm not sure what he's trying to do.
Oh, we did see a skirmish in the middle, and a couple of Zealots and Stalkers dropped, but for the most part, Axslav saved his Immortal.
You can just cut me off when something like that happens. I apologize.
You were so sad when it was like before I cut you off in the past. I don't want to cut you off.
No.
Andre, I won't cut you off, man. Anytime you need money, just let me know.
Thanks, bro.
Oh, I got you.
Are you holding right now?
No, I'm just saying we Asians stick together. It's good stuff. Why else would you call me your co-caster? We saw MaNa is moving out here with the. I'm just moving on from that subject. We're not going to talk about it.
No.
We see that MaNa has this Warp Prism in prime position. Nothing from Axslav is ready to defend against Zealots. Now, will MaNa warp in any units afterwards, or are we just going to simply use it for harass?
Something interesting at MaNa's base. He's actually going for a 2nd robotics facility. So he's going to ramp up the Colossus as fast as possible. Nice job by MaNa picking up all the Zealots before they actually die.
He's really good about
just
that.
Let that go, but MaNa's not going to let any of those Zealots be left behind.
Yeah, man. You saw MaNa last week against Vibe when he sniped the Hive. Oh, the Hive? That's what I was saying, the Hive. When you saw MaNa snipe the Hive last week, he picked up his Zealots and was out in moments notice, saving the Warp Prism as well. So MaNa really good control over his harassing tools. Now Axslav has 4 Stalkers in position, and the Warp Prism kind of caught in an awkward spot. He can't really go any further. In fact, he's just warping more Zealots. And Axslav recalling some of his army as 1 Colossus, taking the short way to get back to the main base.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the Axslav was doing with all the rest of his army. They're so far out of position. Now this 1 Warp Prism will be able to get into the natural drop. No, just 1 Zealot. But still do enough damage. I mean, this is mining time lost. This is
9 probes lost.
A couple of probes. Yeah, let's check it.
So even out the worker count, which was another thing Axslav was spending his Chrono Boost on, as we see double robotics is now really kicking in for MaNa.
MaNa's in a great position. You can see all of his gateway units are very limited. Let's check the units tab right now. 2 Stalkers, 4 sentries. That's awesome. The more you can limit the amount of gateway units you make, the better it is. If you can invest your gas into things like robotics facility units or even Stargate units, Phoenixes are great utensils, like scouting the map, killing probes, whatever it might be. you know, you can do a lot more damage. Your army is significantly better if you invest your gas that way.
It kind of depends, actually, Andre. I think I'm going to have to disagree. Well, not disagree. I'm going to disagree with the condition. And Phoenixes are a great utility up until a certain point where they really can't do anything against Colossus unless you have such an overwhelming number that you just start sniping them. And even then, it's if the Protoss player is really careful, they're not going to lose their Colossus like that, especially a player like MaNa. So I feel like even if he has Phoenixes, you know, Phoenixes definitely have their place in PvP, as we do see a War Prism drop again at the natural of Axslav. I feel like it's not a good spot right now in this game.
Yeah, not necessarily right now, of course.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like, oh, you should tech switch.
I shouldn't say. It's not a tech switch that I was talking about. More so like that one base Phoenix play.
Oh,
it used to be super popular
really
back
good,
in the
man.
day.
I hate Phoenixes in PvP. Like, I hate playing against them. And I hate playing them.
I actually asked a lot of Protoss these days. I'm like, whatever happened to that Phoenix build where you just do one base, Phoenix, Immortal, and a lot of gateway units? And a lot of people were like, oh, no, it's still around. It's still pretty good.
Yeah.
The timings are really tough still. But overall, people just, you know, just stop doing it as much because, well, it's kind of a BM build, man. It's
people just favor a lot of the Blink builds and the Warp Gate mind games, and there's just a lot of hard things that Phoenix hasn't been hashed out as much. But we're about to see things hash out here outside the natural of Axslav. He's spreading his Colossus preemptively, but MaNa has the Colossus advantage, getting some easy pokes. Now Axslav is waiting for his Dark Shrine to finish. Will he get Archons immediately to absorb damage or try to sneak in some damage? He does have his third is completely exposed.
And Zealot's being warped into the main. The cannon is going down as well. This Warp Prism is causing so much damage. Not only that, displacing all the units, it's going to give MaNa enough time to actually move into the natural. And this is great position. Wow, what a little concave that Axslav has. And for his side of the map, he should have the greatest defensive position. He doesn't have that at all.
Oh, that one Colossus caught way out of position, but the 4 Colossus also being shot at by 3 others. We do see Force Fields jumping a lot of the units, and the Zealots trying to go after this one Colossus, which is not firing. Axslav needs to micro a little bit better, but Axslav knows some of his units are also being flanked from the Warp Prism. MaNa is trying to drop as well.
Great control by Axslav so far. You can see all the Colossus are actually jumbled up. Whoa. And look at that, 2 Colossus go down at the same time. Just the sheer positioning of Axslav. I'm going to eat my words right there because I was really critical on Axslav right there. I said his positioning was terrible. He was in a little tiny choke, but he spread out his Colossus and made sure they had great positioning, and there was no time where 2 Colossus can be hit at the same time.
Now you may say, why is MaNa still up to supply? It's purely in workers right now. It's basically 11, 10 workers, and that's pretty much the supply disparity. So we see the exact same army supply is was in favor of MaNa, but he still has double robotics.
Oh, wow. Actually, we missed something pretty huge.
What did we miss?
There's a 2-0 upgrade for Axslav and a 0-0 upgrade for MaNa.
Oh, wow.
That is pretty gigantic.
I apologize.
3. Yeah,
that's oh, you said look at the units tab. It never changed since then.
Me too. That's pretty gigantic, actually. I'm sorry we missed that, but a 2-0 upgrade is just absolutely fantastic. You can see the Stalkers, they get, what is that, 25% bonus.
The Immortals
do 60 damage. That's an extra,
that's crazy.
What is that, 20? Is that 20%? No. God, why am I bugging? 40%.
Yeah, they get 5 damage per upgrade.
That's 20%. I'm going crazy.
And Axslav is taking his third. MaNa is also as well. So this is actually quite a period of time where it becomes increasingly difficult to attack into your opponent in PvP. And I wouldn't blame either player for waiting and playing passive and trying to max out. But Axslav is moving forward because he knows he won that battle. But the thing is, it's deceiving because we see 7 Colossi out for MaNa because he had that double robo.
Now remember, Axslav did in fact lose his third, and a lot of economic damage was done. Oh my goodness. It's a little hot in the studio, man.
Saying that right,
I had a stroke, that's why.
What?
Excuse me. That's why I'm like, no, it's actually really hot in the studio right now. Unfortunately, our AC broke.
It's all right, man.
Unfortunate as that.
I'm sitting cool. It's because you're here, Andre. You're too hot for the room, man.
I guess so.
Too hot. But I was going to say Andre. Axslav is controlling the center of the map, a very critical point of map control at this point. You see that MaNa's trying to sneak in small things, proxy pylons, and you see his observers everywhere. But the big thing is that the Warp Prism is dead. So MaNa doesn't have as many options to harass compared to the Warp Prism of Axslav, which is heading towards the northwest.
It's inbound into the main. It looks like it'll drop real quick, and Start making some Dark Templars. One Dark Templar and a single Zealot.
I like that.
And in the meantime, 2 Zealots will sneak into the third, but a cannon is placed there, so we'll be able to intercept. Look at this. Both these players are trading tiny little shots. 2 Dark Templars taking out the Destructible Rocks. And Axslav will be able to get into his opponent's third.
Will the Stalkers be able to react in time? MaNa try to see if he can target down the War Prism, but it is completely fine. Now, Axslav does have, or sorry, MaNa does have one observer in the main base ready to spot the observer, but he actually moves it away.
The third
is going to drop too, unless he gets his observer there in time. I think it's okay, but Axslav, what is he doing in response? He's warping more into the main and a lot of production facilities, but he's not targeting. He's hitting the assimilators.
He's so scared to actually drop any of these units back. That's the big thing. You might be asking yourself, why isn't MaNa just using his Colossus? Well, if the Colossus is budged, these units in the front can easily swoop in and do exactly what MaNa did to Axslav previously.
Well, you know, Axslav is dumping a bunch of minerals into this harassed form, and he's taking out pylons, which is stalling the production capability of MaNa. He's actually supply capped right now, and Axslav is free to produce, so that is a little win for them. In the meantime, +3 did finish. +1 armor is about halfway done. And we were talking earlier about how both players, I wouldn't blame them, they turtled up to 200, and looking more and more like that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, both these players are just gearing up to do this big final confrontation. I'm expecting a lot of laser beams, a lot of War of the Worlds.
Let's talk a little bit about the ideal composition in PvP based off Colossus armies.
Well, it's going to be a lot of Colossus, Immortals, Archons, and you actually want a couple of Zealots as well. The main thing is, the one War Prism gets taken out over here in the top left-hand position. But the main thing is you want as many levels as possible. Colossus, they shoot in a perpendicular fashion.
Yes,
so
focus fire.
Exactly, focus fire in a perpendicular fashion. So the more layers that you have, the more rounds the Colossus have to go through. So first you have to go through the Zealot layer, and then the Stalker layer, and then Zealot, Archon, Stalker, Immortal, Colossus.
Yes. I mean, they all kind of stagger within their range. And I was talking to Rotterdam about us, you know, how many Colossus would you like to make? He says, don't go over 8. It's just too much. And MaNa has 10 right now. And the idea is, can he even fit 10 in the position he needs? If he would have to start with 10, he would have to engage close towards the center expansion compared to the way you would engage around these natural expansion.
Okay, see, it's interesting because I agree with Rotterdam to an extent. I think 8 Colossus is better all around. 10 Colossus really says I need to get great positioning, right? If I have the most beautiful arc ever, then I'm in a great, I'm doing a lot of damage, tons of damage. Obviously, if all the opponent's units are just bottled up here and he stays in this Battle Dome area, that would be really bad for Axslav. What Axslav wants to remove the advantage of all these Colossus is to get a good flank.
Oh, MaNa's moving up the ramp, though. Axslav's taking a lot of free front damage. We do see some Archons trying to rally in from the northeast. We do see the Colossus from MaNa completely protected as Axslav is being pushed further back. Supplies are still pretty even. There's a lot of lasers being tossed around. A lot of the ground army, aside from Colossus from MaNa, are being pushed back. And Axslav is moving forward, but MaNa's also moving forward, clumped perfectly for the Colossus to get AoE.
No. And that was the worst situation. Now, MaNa had a great initiation, but unfortunately for him, that end play was not ideal. And now you can see he was really punished for that. Axslav very cleverly, I want to talk about this a little bit later, but merging Dark Templars instead of High Templars, that's a really, really critical advantage that he has going for him.
Yeah, utilizing that gas instead. But we do see that MaNa does have one Dark Templar at the expansion of Axslav. He's going to try to take it down as fast as he can. Axslav, what is he doing in response? He has a huge advantage for a moment, but double robotics production, MaNa already still at the even Colossus count. Upgrades also played a big thing in that factor too. 3-1 compared to 2-0 there for our Blue Protoss player.
Yeah, that 3-1 advantage is really, really good. I mean, I think that's another key element that led Axslav to win that middle fight.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have seen that and said, Axslav is dead. You know, he basically move commanded into MaNa's forces, but still MaNa was able, or excuse me, Axslav was able to come off on top. You know, MaNa has been showing a lot of really, really weird micro. I want to say it's actually unorthodox and kind of uncharacteristic of him.
Yeah, you know, MaNa jumbled up his Colossus up that ramp for the last part. He was doing okay. If he pulled back after his Grand Army was down, it was even supply still. But the fact that he sent his Colossus up against Axslav, the way Axslav has his Colossus set up, it was very, very poor attempt to try to bust his opponent. And I don't think he was able to do anything. Axslav still getting harassed at his 4th expansion, but for the most part, he now is 1 base up on his opponent and has stabilized. MaNa's moving across the middle of the map. He does have a supply advantage, despite the fact that Axlav's been winning battle after battle, and again, he has the Colossus advantage of 9-8.
Both of them are very equal in worker supply, so this will translate to army advantage, but that upgrade advantage still holds true to Axslav.
Oh,
and here we go.
Back. And the Colossus free to engage. Now, a lot of MaNa's Colossus are engaging on the front army while Axslav's Colossus are safely tucked away. Or is it half of them are segregated from the army? MaNa's pushing forward, taking a lot of damage, but this Archon trying to get into the battle. The Mortals are doing wonders, staying alive and adding so much damage to the armored units of Axslav. And just like that, MaNa completely evaporates the remainder of Axslav's army. 52 to supply to 121. What happened?
Down to the wire in that engagement. Now Axslav, unfortunately for him, Colossus are a very snowballing unit. So once you lose all your Colossus, it's very hard to come back. You can see 59, 65 supply to 133. MaNa doesn't have to worry about replenishing his Colossus. He can just get a ton of Archons, Zealots, Stalkers, things like that. Make it really hard for this Colossus to get the ideal sprays.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what happens, whatever Axslav masses at this point, he's just going to be outsized and outpowered just because he has no ability to reproduce units at the rate at which MaNa is. Because let's look at it. Axslav is actually pretty broke. He only has 1 expansion really mining. And he's nothing really defending his natural. MaNa's just going to stomp on the production, and Axslav is just going to lose it right here. I think he has nothing really to defend.
Correct. And it all came down to the positioning. A lot of people would have been like, but Axslav had the better upgrades. They were really equal in supply. MaNa was able to actually isolate parts of the Colossus.
Wow.
And, you know, even though his Colossus were all spread out, he just simply had too much stuff, I think, going to one place, and then his Colossus were able to focus fire. There it is, GG. Comes out from Axslav. And ladies and gentlemen, we have MaNa as our winner for game number 3.
Congratulations, Greg Scores. I can't say it whatsoever. Yep. But let's go back.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. That's really
the final
important
battle of the entire map.
Remove the advantage now, of watch this. Hopefully we put down the volume a little bit. Nope, this isn't it.
This is actually the battle before the last battle, and this is when MaNa tried to force himself up. Now, this is still an important moment because you could see that MaNa had the Colossus advantage. Some of them weren't even firing, but he had a pretty good thing. Now, let's talk about how Axslav was splitting up his Colossus rather than keeping it at a concave. He was trying to attack from 2 different points and was not really optimized his AoE at that point.
Exactly. I mean, there was a lot of Colossus that actually weren't being used, trying to get into range, but they couldn't. They just couldn't because of the positioning. Do we actually have the other battle?
All right, so yeah, and I think from there you could see that Axslav had a little bit of advantage, but he kind of fell back. In the end, MaNa stayed on double road production, and he was down like 6 to 8 Colossus, and then just immediately massed back up and was not able to. I mean, he was pretty much safe, and I think Axslav was a little bit too passive from that point on.
I think so, and also I want to mention the Dark Templars. I like the Dark Templars merging in rather than the High Templars. A lot of people would choose High Templars because it costs 100 minerals and 300 gas. But as I was saying before, remember, we want our gas to be concentrated into non-gateway units. So spend that money, more minerals on the Archon using Dark Templars and less gas on the Archons, and put all that gas towards Colossus. Normally, the limiting factor is gas, so you want to reserve as much gas for your robotics facility or even for your Stargate tech, mainly mothership, I should say. Do we have the other clip? No, we don't.
So we don't have the ending clip of the game, but still, that was a really important moment to remember. And that game and the replay was brought to you by Kingston HyperX. Thank you so much for them to provide a lot of SSD, memory, as well as lots of other gear for the NASL Season 3. And we're going to be back with more content from Division 3, guys. This has been Frode and Greetorp. Don't go anywhere. More games and series coming up next.